Netherlands, the land of tulips, canals, and bicycles, has made a political turnaround in its latest general election held on 22nd of November 2023. We are talking about a twist with a name and a hairstyle. Geert Wilders. Wilders, along with his party, the Party for Freedom, which he founded in 2006, has become the leading political force in the fragmented Dutch parliament. From 6 deputies, they went to 24, then 15, 20, and so on, until the last November elections, where they won 37 seats and became the largest political force in the country for the first time. And all this with a good proportion of political opinion against him, branding him as a radical, ultra-right-wing politician, and even of having had sympathy with Putin for years. We are talking about a nationalist populist, Eurosceptic, anti-immigration, strongly anti-Islam type, and also someone who is critical of the, in his opinion, restrictive environmental policy that has spread throughout Europe. Nevertheless, everything indicates that, on this occasion, he will not be Prime Minister. After about 4 months of political uncertainty, Wilders has finally stepped aside. Now it is most likely that a government of concentration will be formed with a technocrat at the head and filled with diverse political and technical profiles.
Wilders said Wednesday night that he was giving up his bid, at least for now, to become Prime Minister because he did not have the full support of all 3 parties he is negotiating with to form a ruling coalition.
But why has Wilders garnered so much support that he has gone on to win the election? What explains his frenzied rise in Dutch politics? Well, one of the main foundations, not only of his campaign, but of his entire long political career, has been to convey the idea that the Netherlands is about to become one of the most insecure countries on the European continent. Lack of security and organized crime are part of the social breeding ground on which his candidacy has been fed. Is the Netherlands becoming the new Sweden? Is crime and delinquency getting out of control? Well, we're going to tell you all about it. Listen up.
Heading for disaster?
One of the recipes for success for populist political profiles is to look for enemies at home and abroad, and then hyperbolize them, make them larger than life in the face of public opinion. In the case of Wilders, his electoral trump cards have been mainly 2. The economy, which he says is going badly, although there are no real macroeconomic indicators to back him up, and the issue of the lack of security. And the truth is that there is a lot to be said on this second topic. On the one hand, it is important to note that the Netherlands is one of the safest countries in Europe, and certainly safer than neighbouring countries such as Belgium, Germany, or France. For example, in the last 20 years, homicides have fallen from 247 per year in 2003 to 142 in 2022, almost half. It also has no serious illegal immigration problems, and regularised immigrants and their descendants are reasonably well integrated, especially if we compare it with the disastrous British, French, Belgian, and Swedish examples, and their no-go zones, something that does not exist in the Netherlands, at least not to that degree. Wait a minute though, because even if the statistics don't seem to support the idea that the Netherlands needs a saviour against a rampant lack of security, as we always say, the devil is in the details. Although we told you earlier that homicides and other indicators of insecurity have fallen, the truth is that since 2016, we are again detecting sustained increase in the number of homicides. And not only that, new types of organized crime related to drug trafficking are gaining more and more prominence, something that is already beginning to be noticed on the street, something that did not happen until now. You see, what is happening in some European countries is so worrying that the Dutch fear a contagion effect in their country, and the first ingredients are already visible at home. That is, in part, one of the reasons that may explain the vote for Wilders.
Registered crime rose 17% in the Greater Amsterdam region last year, 2022, including 99 explosive attacks on businesses and homes, record cocaine hauls at Amsterdam ports. In the problem areas of southeastern Amsterdam, young men are queuing up to commit murder on behalf of the gangs.
But how is it possible that after years of improvement, crime and delinquency are again getting worse in the Netherlands? What exactly is happening? Well, pay attention.
We don't want to be Belgium.
As we have just told you, the Netherlands is far from being among the most crime-ridden countries in Europe. Yet, there are very worrying signs that a wave of violence and crime could be brewing. I am referring specifically to organized crime, a type of street crime that's becoming one of the biggest security threats in Europe. This is a phenomenon that until recently was not seen, or at most, was very much concentrated in countries such as Italy or Albania. Now, however, it is spreading rapidly across the old continent, while at the same time, it has new players. In the case of the Netherlands, for example, a criminal group known as the Mokro Mafia has grown disturbingly. The Mokro Mafia is a criminal organization primarily dedicated to cocaine trafficking. Many of you may be wondering what Mokro means. Well, this term refers to the Moroccan origin of most of the members of these organized crime groups. We're talking about people born in Morocco and also from other Maghreb countries or Dutch descendants of these communities. Of course, while it is a minority of people within this community, and without going into whether or not the name is fair, the fact is that this situation is enough to explain to a large extent the ill will that Geert Wilders and his voters have for many immigrant groups, and for Moroccans in particular, but there's no way around it. The Mokro Mafia is gaining power and operational capacity in both Belgium and the Netherlands.
Wilders was convicted over a 2014 incident at a campaign rally when he asked supporters whether they wanted more or fewer Moroccans in the Netherlands. When they chanted, "Fewer, fewer, fewer," he replied, "We're going to take care of that."
The fact is that in a past video on Belgium, which we'll link for you below in the description, we already told you how this country could be at risk of becoming a kind of European-style narco-state. The port of Antwerp is already the main entry point for cocaine on the continent, far surpassing southern Spain, and especially the port of Algeciras, which had previously been the main gateway for drugs into old Europe. However, it is not only in Belgium and Antwerp that the drug trafficking underworld groups have found a good place to take root. In the Netherlands and in the port of Rotterdam, they are also doing so. To give you an idea, 60 tons of cocaine were seized there in 2023, an increase of about 20% over the previous year. And that's not the worst of it. The drug mafias move an estimated 16 billion euros a year in the Netherlands alone, and the growth is unstoppable. In the port of Rotterdam, 8 tons hidden in a container of bananas were seized in a single day. For all these reasons, more and more voices are warning that the Netherlands has the necessary ingredients to end up emulating Belgium's bad drift. And we're talking about voices that, in some cases, have nothing to do with Wilders' political environment.
As the mayor of Amsterdam, I can see the Netherlands risks becoming a narco-state.
For your information, Halsema belongs to the Green Left Party. But why is this threat in the up until now peaceful Netherlands so worrying? Well, you see, according to European Union statistics, half of all homicides in Europe are directly related to drug trafficking. And not only that, 40% of the criminal networks active in the EU are totally or partially dedicated to this activity. To give you an idea, the European cocaine market grew by 416% between 2011 and 2021. Of course, the higher the level of drug trafficking and the greater the presence of narco gangs, the greater the likelihood that crime, violence, and fear will spread to other strata of society. And in this regard, the Netherlands is among those most likely to be next on this disastrous list, after Sweden and Belgium. And no, don't think we're exaggerating. The situation has gotten so out of control lately that the Mokro Mafia now has enough power to threaten the security of the royal family and the Prime Minister.
Dutch Crown Princess and Prime Minister threatened by drug mafia. The threats come as 17 alleged members of the Mokro Mafia are currently on trial in a high-security compound on the outskirts of Amsterdam.
In short, we're talking about what may be the best organized and most influential mafia in the European Union, after the Italian mafia groups. What's more, according to an investigation by the US weekly The Nation, the choice of the Netherlands and Belgium as a base of operations for importing cocaine into Europe, and in some cases re-exporting it, it is by no means coincidental. You see, the Netherlands, due in part to its long-standing policy of tolerance towards drugs, also has one of the most lax policies against illegal narcotics on the entire continent. And Belgium, for its part, is considered to be one of the most guarantee-oriented countries in Europe, judicially and procedurally speaking. And naturally, if you are a criminal, logically, you prefer to take your chances in a country where the guarantees are on your side. But back to the Netherlands. In the port of Rotterdam, the North African Mafia has a structure that covers all phases of illegal drug trafficking, from reception to distribution and sale to the final consumer. For example, in the ports, they have youths who, for several hundred euros, infiltrate the ports to gain access to where they are told the drugs are, and are able to get them into the country free of customs controls. The mafia pays about 500 euros a month to corrupt workers in the port of Rotterdam itself to pretend that they don't see these kids are raiding the port to take the goods. These youths, by the way, not only tend to be of North African origin, but also tend to be minors in order to avoid harsh sentences and imprisonment for drug trafficking. In other words, the mafia groups have learned to take advantage of the loopholes in the laws related to minors. In the same way, other boys, also often minors and from troubled neighborhoods, then sell the drugs to the final consumer. This completes a triangle at the top, of which are the drug traffickers, who live in mansions in places like Dubai or southern Spain.
Spain detains macro mafia leader wanted by the Netherlands.
The fact is that when these Maghrebi underworld groups allied with the Latin American cartels, they began to amass huge volumes of drugs and money. And as the business has grown, so has the violence, feuds, gang wars, vendettas, and settling of scores between clans and mafias. And so, little by little, violence has begun to be perceptible in the streets of the country. The first heinous episode occurred in 2012 in Amsterdam, when two men were killed in a shootout, followed by a chase out of an American movie. A chase in which the criminals fired mercilessly at the police. In the years that followed, the Dutch began to see an unprecedented type of violence in their country. In 2016, for example, a narco was decapitated in front of a shisha bar in Amsterdam. In 2018, another man was murdered in his office a week after his brother testified in a trial against drug dealers. In 2019, the lawyer of a man who testified ended up murdered as well on the doorstep of his own home. And in 2021, an investigative journalist who had uncovered things about the same case was murdered in broad daylight in a coffee shop in Amsterdam. In fact, one of Mocro Mafia's best-known slogans makes it clear, whoever talks must go. That is, he dies. And so these episodes have been happening more or less regularly until today, gradually generating a growing sense of fear, helplessness, and impunity in a Dutch society that is unaccustomed to such events.
Dutch 6-year mega trial puts 3 drug cartel members in jail for life. 17 members of the drug trafficking group involved in killings were given sentences ranging from life to 1 year and 8 months.
Given such a backdrop, Wilders has been justifying his anti-immigration and anti-Islam stance, and that has won him many followers along the way. And of course, the fact that the Mocro Mafia is mostly of North African origin has also been used by this politician. The idea that stands out in his speech is that if things do not change, the Netherlands is heading towards a situation similar to that of Sweden and Belgium. In this line, the still Prime Minister Mark Rutte and Geert Wilders have even engaged in intense public debates on this issue.
Wilders lashes out hard at government. The Moroccan mafia is the boss here.
What's more, the fact that the Netherlands has a fairly free ecosystem when it comes to investing has also been a key factor for the Mocro Mafia settling in this country. Because of course, if you think about it, in the end, they need to launder some of the money and introduce it into the formal economy. Something that, by the way, happens on a gigantic scale in the Italian economy. Something we've already talked about not too long ago on VisualPolitik. Well, on a smaller scale, this phenomenon is also starting to be seen in the Netherlands. In fact, businesses in the hospitality sector have already been detected that are fed with infiltrated money from the Mocro Mafia, originating in the Netherlands but present in several countries.
The ring is believed to have had a solid infrastructure in place in several cities in Spain, as well as Morocco, the Netherlands, the Dominican Republic, and the United Arab Emirates to launder the money it made.
On top of that, the Netherlands, as a massive gateway for narcotics, is a phenomenon that has not been around that long, and the authorities are not as prepared, either in terms of resources or legally, to fight this phenomenon as they are in other jurisdictions. They are simply not used to it. For example, there is a significant lack of narcotics detection equipment in ports. In fact, it has only been since the end of 2021 and 2022 that the Dutch authorities started acquiring significant amounts of equipment, such as drones, mobile container scanners, trucks, and robots. What's more, the Dutch authorities' approach in their fight against Mocro Mafia has, so far, been rather erratic, largely because the way in which the Dutch authorities fight drug trafficking is outdated. They are still trying to detect shipments, as opposed to trying to strike directly at the heart of all these underworld structures we are talking about. And the problem is that the Mokro Mafia is ahead of the game. Basically, the reason it can operate so easily in the Netherlands is precisely because it bribes enough people to do so. As we have told you, a youth who jumps into the port to pick up drugs from a container receives about 500 euros, and the I didn't see anything of a port worker costs another 500. And not only that, it costs around 50,000 euros to terrorize anyone who gets in the way. For example, by executing an enemy or a witness. That includes preparation, vehicle, weapons, and the hitman himself. If punishment were done, for instance, as in Italy, where financial punishments and money confiscations are enormous, perhaps these organizations would not have such a large financial pot to pay their soldiers. The big question we are all asking ourselves at this point is, will the Netherlands end up becoming Belgium, or even worse, Sweden, in terms of organized crime? Has Wilders' victory in the elections been a warning that Dutch society is fed up? Will a hypothetical government of concentration with a technocrat at the helm be able to address the country's challenges in terms of crime and lack of security? Well, here at VisualPolitik, we will follow closely how these events unfold. But until then, let us know what you think in the comments below. As always, thank you very much for watching this video, and don't forget to like it if you found it interesting, and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any news coming soon. All the best. See you next time.